Welcome to another episode of the Star Local Media High School Sports Podcast. My name is Matt Welch, being joined by Devin Hasson, Bryan Murphy, and Kendrick Johnson. Gentlemen, it is a Monday morning, and we are right in the thick of the home stretch of high school basketball season, which means, I guess, over the next couple of weeks, we will have all of our coaches convene for their respective districts to vote on things like the all-district list, district MVP, offensive player of the year, and whatnot. And obviously, that's some nice, fun water cooler talk as far as just speculating who from our respective coverage areas might be in the mix to win one of those awards. So let's devote an entire podcast episode to it. First off, have you guys ever had like a reader or somebody reach out to you basically just under the impression that you have a role in how the all-district team is voted on and that you might have wronged their kid for making the list or anything to that ilk?
I've had people suggest things, and I've actually attended a few all-district meetings. And granted, it's the dynamic is always different. When you go like to a Garland ISD, when it's mostly Garland ISD teams, it's more like a fun event because most times they're in agreement with everything. It's just to sit down, eat some good food, go over, and most of the stuff is pretty simple. When you have more a district like 11-6, like the current 11-6A, not that I've been to a meeting, but when you have like say 3 schools from Mesquite ISD, 2 schools from Rockwall ISD. Longview and John or Tyler Lee, are going to band together. It makes things a little bit more contentious, from what I understand, in terms of voting over certain things, because you got certain, everybody has their side, and there's voting blocks do happen. So it's interesting, but we have no say in the matter. We can kind of, I guess, people cut out our articles or print it out online and whatnot in terms of, hey, look this. But
I've had coaches ask me like, who should they put up, or they had a kid that went off against them. Is he really that good? Or he just have that outlier game against us? That type thing.
I've had coaches ask me about that kind of thing. Hey, you've seen this guy more than I have.
Well, 8-5A should have asked me last year. I wanted to step in that meeting.
You wrote a full-on column about it.
Is that Frisco? Oh,
that's Little Elm.
Are you so mad about
RJ Hampton? No, I was mad about it last year. Just how can you give that dude, offensive player? I would have loved to have been in that meeting just to see, like, what was. Obviously, they give it to Avery Anderson. They won the district. Yeah. He went on to play Oklahoma State, so he's not a bad player. He's a really, really good player. I just would have loved to just been in that meeting and just like, what are you talking about? This kid's averaging like 34 points a game, and you're not going to give him MVP.
Or you got the mystery votes. That's the not 1, not 2, but 3 district MVPs in the same district. Never seen that in my life.
Well, and it's almost like it's an unwritten rule in a lot of districts that whoever the MVP is the best player on the district championship team. Now, not everybody conforms to that, but it just seems like a lot of times that's the way it turns out.
Yeah. It's just fun, because you see an all-district list and you look at it, man, I just wish I could have been a fly on the wall to see just what the discussions were like and how they arrived at this conclusion. I don't know. I always look forward to, to all-district talk and whatnot. So, but nevertheless, so let's talk about just some of the players that could potentially be in the mix in our respective coverage areas for district MVP, for another superlative or what have you. We're going to start and talk some boys basketball in the first half of the podcast. We'll do the girls on the backside. So, I don't know, Bryan, is there any sort of district MVP race that's really kind of got your attention right now that you think might be worth bringing to the table?
Well, if you give it to the best player on the best team, it could be between 5 guys right now. There's 5 teams fighting for a district championship.
What about the All-Frisco district?
In the All-Frisco district, yeah. You have Independence and Wakeland at 11-4. You have Centennial Memorial at 10-5, and then you have Frisco at 9-6. Do you give it to Xavier Savage of Centennial, who's been just on a scoring tear? Or do you give it to Cooper Cisco, who's been consistently leading Wakeland, averaging 16 points per game? Liberty might not even make the playoffs, and they might have the best player in the district in Makai Ivy, who's going to go play at Liberty University. He's averaging over 16 points per game, and he's a 6'7" guy that shoots threes and blocks shots and does it all. It's like, well, who do you give it to? Memorial, Avery Jackson and guys like Shannon Lowry, they have some studs averaging over 15 points per game. They're right there, obviously, in the playoff mix. Do you give it to one of the guys at Memorial? And the thing with Independence, they're 11-4 right now, but they don't have one clear-cut guy way better than everyone else. Their starting 5 is probably the best in the district, maybe right there with a Wakeland. So who do you give it to? And I'd love to be at that meeting actually to see, how do you decipher, MVP, offensive player of the year, defensive player of the year, and all that stuff.
And you also have to wonder, what do you do when you have a team that just really prides itself on balance? Because I think that's going to be the big discussion in District 9 6A on the boys' side. Is like right now, if you look at the standings, like Allen is, they've clinched no worse than a share of the district title. If they get a win Tuesday against Plano West, they get their first outright district championship since 1992. But it's a team that's really kind of their identity centers around their three returning starters: Thailand Elder, Manny Obaseki, and Bryce Kennedy. So which criteria do you value? Because they're three players that all kind of play off each other very well. Whereas Elder's going to be their lead scorer on a lot of nights. Manny Obaseki is kind of their the floor general, their top playmaker, and arguably their top overall defender. Bryce Kennedy is their muscle in the middle. All three of them are so complementary, and they all have their moments to shine.
Well, according to the Allen coach, he thinks Bryce Kennedy is the best defensive player in the district. When I spoke to him after they beat Prosper, so is he the best defensive player, or is Manny Obaseki? I thought Manny Obaseki is the best player on that team, overall. He does a lot of things.
Matt knows me. I'm a Manny Obaseki fan.
Me too. I love his game. He does.
Get some consistency, Manny, so you can be on that McDonald's All-American team. But he has potential. When he has it going, he puts on a show.
But you get to see, like in their game Friday against Prosper, they had to erase a 15-point deficit, in the first half, came back and won. But you had, like, Thailand Elder was the one that willed them back there in the third quarter. He went on, I think he had a 10-0 run by himself, some tough buckets inside MVP that he was getting. Right, but then you have, in the fourth quarter, it's all Obaseki and Kennedy, as they scored, I think, all but maybe 3 of their points in the fourth quarter. So, they all take turns. There's never any one guy that kind of outshines the rest. So you wonder how the coaches will, have those discussions and where they ultimately land. Maybe you go Obaseki MVP and then Elder as your offensive player of the year, something to that tune.
What about Mondo Battle?
What about
the guys
Mondo
averaging
Battle?
Almost 20 points per game on a team that's going to the playoffs, a team that's been state ranked much of the year. Speaking of guys that are 6'6", shoot threes, block shots, do a lot of things, that's Mondo Battle. How's he not in the discussion?
Yeah, he's not consistent. He's not a clumper. I've seen him play 4 times. I've seen him have 24 and 22. I've seen him have 6 and 8.
Yeah. What about, I guess, on the newcomer of the year side, which player from McKinney is best positioned to get it?
Jacoby Walter.
Okay, it's
kid special.
Because when your team centers
he's a future
around,
MVP in whatever district they would be in line in. I'll be shocked if the kid does not get MVP before he graduates. He's that good.
Because it was Alex Anamekwe that won it last year, right?
Yeah,
for McKinney.
He's better than Alex.
How was he the only of those freshmen and sophomores? How many of them played last year?
To him and Vincent. I can't think. Devin Vincent.
Devin Vincent. Okay.
And then we got Jacoby Walter and Jacoby
Campbell.
Campbell. Jacob Jakob.
While talking superlatives for 9-6A, one player who I'm curious as to how he factors into the mix, and I was telling you about him last week, Bryan, and that's Plano Senior. Their point guard, Makai Dorsey, is a potential Defensive Player of the Year candidate.
I haven't seen him play this year, but I remember last year we watched that game. Remember with the playoffs, he was giving the McKinney guards the business and got those 2 steals that gave Plano a shot.
That's the thing.
He be locking people down. He's the in your face,
that's
in
what
your
Matt was
jock.
telling me.
He had. I don't think
that was last year, so I'm pretty sure he's better this year as a senior.
I don't know how many times. I can't recall the last time I saw a player at the high school level that was as adept at just stripping you one-on-one, not within just as a result of your scheme or anything like that, but just natural talent and reflexive abilities. He had against. I've seen Plano Senior twice this year, and he had 4 steals in both games. And there were in the game Tuesday against Jesuit, which went a long way towards locking up a potential playoff spot for them. He had. He was responsible. Again, he only had 4 steals, but there were probably about maybe 6 or 7 turnovers that just his defense alone caused. I've just never seen a player that is it's feel like you dribble in his path at your own peril. It feels like, but yeah, it's just such just game-changing defensive skills, and I'm curious to see where he factors into the mix. Just a sophomore, so he's still got he's got a long.
He did
high
as
school
a
career
freshman last year because he was very. He's one of the few people that does that in today's time, people don't play 94 feet. That kid can play 94 feet.
Because you
got that Patrick Beverly without the craziness.
Oh yeah, Jesuit had the ball. They were up, up 2 points or whatever, just trying to dribble out the clock, and then kid tries to make a move on Makai, but he reaches around, pokes the ball loose. He wins a scramble, goes down, and gets fouled, makes both free throws and whatnot, and they ended up winning the game. But I don't know, just game changing defense from him. And I'm curious to see if that gets recognized at all for Plano Senior. But then you have, I was talking about teams that kind of thrive on balance, and you look at a team like Capel, which is currently in first place over in District 6 6A and might be positioned to win a district championship. Again, it's still there's just 3 games left in that district, but it's so close between 4 or 5 teams that it's tough to say definitively who's gonna win the district title. But that's another team that has really kind of built itself off the skill set of about 3-4 players that all kind of take turns any given night of contributing. Ryan Agrawal, the leading scorer, he can get you a good 18 to 22 points a night. Brandon Taylor, Anthony Black, and then a guy like Adam Musa, who maybe if you have to you wonder sometimes if coaches maybe defer to maybe the senior captain versus the promising underclassman that's probably going to have a shot at winning this these next couple years and whatnot. So that's where a player like Adam Musa might have a bit of an edge just because of all the intangible qualities that he feels, in addition to filling up the stat sheet with his playmaking, his scoring, and just his defense. But yeah, I've noticed that a lot of the teams that we cover, a lot of the better teams at least, they tend to have really, really balanced ensembles versus a team like a Louisville, which is very, very centered around what Keontae George can do. And again, Keontae's probably going to work himself into the superlative for maybe offensive player of the year or something like that. But I don't know, you're just seeing whether it's Allen, whether it's Capella on the boys' side, Denton Braswell, one of the standout teams on the girls' side, teams that just night to night, you can't really tell who's gonna be the one that goes off. Devin, how about you, man? What about over in whether it's for Saxe or whoever, Mesquite ISD? Where are you on the boys' side at least? Who do you kind of foresee figuring into the superlative mix in your 2 districts?
It's tough because you look at 10-6A and we got 3 games left. Wiley's already secured the outright district championship. I mean, that's with 3 games left. That's pretty impressive. I mean, they're 11-0 when every other district team has 4 losses. Yeah. So you're probably going to give it to a guy like Eli Taylor over at Wiley, the best player on that team. As far as Saxe goes, Obi Onaya is an interesting player to watch in terms of he's going to get something superlative-wise. Okay. Saxe's tied for second place right now. They still have work to do, but he's a guy that'll go out there. He scores. He's their leading scorer. He scores 15 points a game, but he also pulls down 4 rebounds. He dishes out 4 assists. He's averages about a steal and a half a game. He just does a little bit of everything for them. He's really kind of the guy that makes it go for that team. Mm-hmm. So assuming Saxe can get back to the playoffs, which they've put themselves in really good position, especially after last Friday's big win over South Garland. I think he's a guy that's going to get some consideration in terms of superlatives. R.J. Chapman, as far as newcomer of the year goes, he's a freshman. I mean, you don't see that happen every day as far as a freshman taking on a lot of minutes at the varsity level and being able to make an impact. He doesn't have great numbers, but if you just look in terms of what he brings to the court, just something different, something new for Saxe. It's tough. 11-6A is so jumbled up. You got 5 teams within 2 games of one another. Rockwall's leading the pack. I mean, they have a guy like Sherman Brashear who's just put up big numbers all year long. Rockwall, if they win the district championship, I think he gets the nod. But then if Horn is able to overtake them, they still have a game with Rockwall. They already beat Rockwall once. Zakir Sawyer, the ULM commitment, I think he has an excellent chance to get MVP honors over there. We kind of laughed about this earlier. 13-5A. Poteet and West Mesquite have some nice players. Eli Huey's having a great season for West Mesquite. Tyler Jones is a very good player for Poteet. But when you're in the same district as Lancaster,
could you theoretically give every single superlative to someone from Lancaster? Do you think?
You know what? No, I don't think so. Because Mike Miles will be MVP, and Marco Foster will probably be Offensive Player of the Year, and they're probably going to give something to Wade Taylor. But that's kind of there are 3 standouts. I mean, you look at the Lancaster box score; they have 15 players score on a given night because they're averaging over 100 points and their games are over by halftime. Yeah. But those 3 are the big ones. But I could see someone like Tyler Jones. That's the thing about all districts. Every district is different, and you'll see some that are just really straightforward. MVP, Offensive Player of the Year, Defensive Player of the Year, newcomer, coach, and then some come up with these ridiculous superlative awards that 6th man of the year. 8th man of the year. I actually saw that at one point in time. Yeah, this was years ago. But I mean, they
how long you been doing this?
Long enough. But they actually do based on, and it's just kind of the way it is. Some of them actually try to get so many different kids recognized that they'll actually, make up certain superlative awards just for, best rebounder, best attacker in soccer. I mean, it's just, they do get creative sometimes. So, if they start doing that, then we have a lot more guys to consider in terms of these discussions.
Have you seen Rockwall play this year?
Rockwall boys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Every kid I seen that's a hard worker named Will Bartoszek.
Will Bartoszek, yeah. He's their second leading scorer. He's a solid player. I mean, like I said, I mentioned Sherman Bashir is probably going to be their, if they have an MVP candidate, just because he's their lead scorer. But Will Bartoszek, yeah, I mean, he's one of those, he's solid.
Shout out to Will.
Before we get out of here, Kendrick, I was curious. So I'm over in District 10 5A. Is there a certain player from McKinney North you think might be better positioned to bring home a pretty big superlative?
Not like last year. Last year they ran the table because they had Brandon Frazier was the MVP and he was a defensive player, and then they had Coach of the Year. And this year I don't know because they don't have like a really a group. They just have they have a core, so they have a group of players. They don't have that one star.
Okay. And we are back as we continue to discuss some of the superlative talk for our respective basketball districts. We talked some of the boys' teams on the first half. We're going to kick it over, talk some girls on the second half. Let's see, Devin. Let's start with Saxe, since I'm guessing they're probably going to get a few superlatives over District 10 6A. It feels like a safe bet at this point. So that's another team that, kind of like we alluded to early on, that kind of prides itself on having a very balanced identity. So with what Saxe has this year, who do you kind of foresee being in the mix for those superlatives at year's end?
I think it starts with Adel Tack, their post. She's 6'1". She's not only is she a good. I mean, she signed with TCU. She's not only a good post presence. They can run the offense through her. I mean, she can go to the top of the key, and they will start the offense through her, and she can pass the ball. I mean, she's not a threat to shoot necessarily from out there, but they are confident enough in her in the way she can see the floor, and especially so. Once they lost their point guard Jayla Brooks before the start of the season happened, and so it's just a different wrinkle. I just think that her versatility and the fact that she's a dominant post in that district, I would give her the slight edge as far as MVP voting goes. Tia Harvey, their outstanding other senior guard, is certainly going to be in consideration. One of their best scorers. It's kind of hard to gauge Saxe sometimes on just numbers because they're one of those teams that's so dominant that their starters don't always play the number of minutes they would at normal times. But Tia Harvey is certainly going to be in consideration. Kristen Rose is a freshman that starts for them. I mean, she's the front runner for newcomer of the year in that district. And the thing is, they have another freshman that actually plays substantial minutes, Journey Chambers. And if it wasn't for Kristen Rose, would probably be the front runner in that position. And Journey Chambers has been key because, like I just mentioned, Jayla Brooks being out for the season, she's actually been able to step in as a freshman and run the point, which has been big. So, Saxe is, when you've gone 4 years without losing a district game and you've won 68 in a row, district games in a row, you're going to have your share of accolades, and they pretty much dominated the all-district list in recent years, and but they will again. So.
Meanwhile, like for a district like 9-6A last year, this was the district that had 3 McDonald's All-Americans, and all 3 were named MVP of the district. It's a bit of a different landscape this time around, and as we look at who's in the mix there, I feel like I jinxed poor Allen last time we talked about them on the podcast, and because they, right at the midpoint, they were 7-0 at the midpoint, and we talked about, okay, well, it feels like they've played well enough, where you could probably right to consider them a justified favorite for the district title. They lost their next 4 games, including one Kendrick to McKinney Boyd last week.
I saw that. I have people texting me. I'm literally like, what was I doing? I'm literally in Houston walking to this party with Jorge Masvidal, and I look up like, I thought it was the boys. Like, I could see the boys upset in Island. So props to the girls for McKinney Boyd with that upset, because that's 2 years in a row. They went from 2 years not winning a single district game to they've scratched 2 years in a row for a program. That was a big step in confidently turning things around. They hadn't won no district games, Devin, and they beat the top dog.
Well, what it's done now is that it's positioned Plano Senior to follow through and win the outright district title.
Who's that Coach of the Year? I've been telling y'all.
Oh, yeah, no question. And that's
Coach Belcher. Shout out to you.
We can get to that in a sec, because now Plano, they haven't lost since that district opening setback to Allen. They've just, again, this is all without their best player on the floor, Jordan Merritt. And
America, we don't need that. We still got this district.
But then you look at how players and I think now the MVP conversation has kind of shifted to either like Michaela Edens or Amaya Brannon, 2 players that have taken on that scoring onus in the wake of them losing Merritt. And they've just really help steady this team and just keep them among the state's elite. Again, it's just, again, it defies logic. You can lose a player the caliber of Jordan Merritt's,
the thing that tripped me out is they got girls that are good, like them, playing better or at a higher level than what they would have had she been there. Mm-hmm. And then you got somebody like Maggie that's a competitor playing at an even higher level. It's like you have to watch these girls play to see. And then on top of that, they've got experience. They've been to the recent state champions, and they're not scared of nobody. They went head-to-head with DeSoto. Yeah. They've been in that Duncanville tournament. So it's like, I said, we got this. So props to the Plano people. I don't get impressed by too many girl programs. They got to be impressed watching them in a tournament and then seeing them come up to McKinney and put on shows on a yearly basis. Props to y'all, Lady Watkins.
And you had alluded to it. So this be finally the long-awaited Coach of the Year accolade for Rodney Belcher, and this is a stat that still floors me. So as we all know, Plano Senior is not too far removed from a state championship. They won it back in 2018 and whatnot. That team that year, they did not have a single player get an all-district superlative. You talk about all-district meetings that I would love to have been a fly on the wall for. How Plano Senior, which had a great year,
Jordan did nothing.
She was a sophomore that year. She was a sophomore. She was a newcomer the year beforehand. She was newcomer of the year as a freshman.
Oh.
Yeah, she was a sophomore. But no,
she was 18, 12.
And they won the district and didn't have a single superlative?
I'm trying to remember if they...
Or was it Allen?
I think they... I can't remember if they wanted if they tied. Either way, they finished no worse than second and whatnot. But I think they might have won the district and maybe tied or whatnot. No worse than that. But nevertheless, they didn't have a single player that got an all-district superlative. Not MVP, not Coach of the Year, not Defensive Player of the Year. It was a team that played incredible defense. So just
that ring though.
So, now fast forward to the season. Coach Linson's done an incredible job over at Plano East, taking one of the youngest teams in the state and turning them into a team that could potentially make a little bit of noise in the playoffs.
Taylor Hagan, she's a monster.
Looking like they might finish second in the district. Coach Belcher, again, to steady your team after losing a player like Jordan Merritt, that's really, really impressive work.
If they had Jordan Merritt?
It's
they can win state. Like I said, I saw the very beginning and left, but you saw the whole game, right? Against DeSoto?
I saw their second game against DeSoto, the one at the Duncanville tournament and whatnot. It definitely positioned them, and they still might be the favorites to come out of the region. Who knows? I don't know the rest of Region 2 right now, but nevertheless, with Merritt, it's a fascinating hypothetical because you wonder if this team would have been more highly thought of as a potential state championship contender on the same tier as the Duncanvilles and the DeSotos if they had Merritt. But they've done a great job without her.
That's 2010 on the bench, Brian. That's how. Put that perspective. That's 2010 on the bench.
Over in District 6A, then, you have two teams that are vying for the district title. It's actually going to be decided tomorrow night. Flower Mound and Irving MacArthur. They've both MacArthur got
the Hannah Hester's girl.
Gusters. Thinking of Hannah Gusters, Sarah Andrews. So they've MacArthur since getting back to full strength with Sarah Andrews coming off of that knee injury that had her sidelined for the first half of district. They've looked the part as far as one of the better teams in the entire state. They have not lost since Andrews got back, and including in that stretch was a win over Flower Mound, albeit a close one that went to overtime and whatnot. The rematch tomorrow night, but it's you wonder again how that's going to factor into the all district voting because at Flower Mound they're another team that they've kind of built their gotten to where they are based on a very balanced identity. They don't have a single player on the team that's averaging over 10.5 points per game.
How they win it?
Huh? But it's just again like I said with balance they've got 4 or 5 girls that are all capable of contributing pretty big time. You look at their it's a team that as far as the scoring and the rebounding it's all centers around their underclassmen front court of Madison Cox and Sarah Edmondson. They're their top 2 leading scorers. Cox, if you're going to think of a player that's probably closest to working herself into the MVP mix, Madison Cox is 10.5 points per game, 8 rebounds, almost 2 blocks. If not MVP, then surely she gets newcomer of the year, you would think. But then how do you evaluate that relative to a player like Hannah Gusters over at MacArthur, who you wonder how much they the fact that she wasn't eligible to play until mid-December, if they dock that against her just for her lack of availability for the first juncture of the season. But she's a McDonald's All-American at the same point. So do you really? How can you ignore that?
I smell a co-MVP.
Could very well be. Yeah. And
if it was not 6A, you guys.
And I hate nothing more than the co-MVP. I wish it would just pick an outright winner.
What I think might happen in Frisco, we might have co-MVPs.
Okay.
Unless they
just get them to go. You're all Frisco. There's no reason they should.
I need to hit up Matt Wixon and be like, hey, let me get in this meeting and
tell him the man that gave you the plan.
All right, I'll bring you along with me too.
Make sure Kendrick gets credit.
I won't be his
Yeah, by all
Our
means.
McKinney guy that's never seen y'all play, just bring him on. Bring him in this meeting. Me and him will just run the show.
Yeah.
But you have Frisco Liberty, state runner-up last year,
Yeah.
lose all their starters to graduation. Randy Thompson going to North Texas, their best player, co-MVP last year, and they're 16-1. How? Well, because you have a star sophomore in Jazzy Owens-Barnett averaging almost 14 points per game.
As a sophomore, girl?
As a sophomore.
Yeah,
It
I
might
saw
not
her
sound
play.
like a lot, but their games are like 40-20, 30-15. Like their defense is so good.
I would say that they put at Syracuse zone.
They do. It's a lot of scheme. Ross Reedy is the
Yeah.
man. Like he is a legit coach. He's coach of the year for sure. But then you have Memorial and Jasmine Lott, who plays on the same AAU team, summer league team as Jazzy Owens Barnett, and they both have the same first name. She's leading the district in scoring. And then you also have Kyla Day, sophomore at Lone Star. They're 13-4. They also play on the same summer league team as the two Jazzies, and ironically, they're the three of the best players in the district, 3 top teams right now in the district. Co-MVP, one of them, and they were both played a lot last year, or all 3 played a lot last year, so it's not like they're newcomers of the year. Kyla started. Jazzy Owens was kind of the 6th man, and Jasmine Lott was the best player on a Memorial team last year that made the playoffs. So I don't know. I don't know how they're going to figure that out. The easy choice would be to give it to Barnett from Liberty, but
Here's a question to you: for when it comes to playoffs, how do these physical teams think they're going to progress playing that slow down ball when they're going to see that up tempo?
It worked for Liberty in the playoffs last year.
I'm talking about across the board.
I think
Because I've seen them play in tournaments. That's one thing. It was like they play that. I call it the Syracuse ball. So like they play
The
tough
amoeba.
D, but you can't really do that in the
The
playoffs.
amoebas.
They play good D, but it's like they're gonna have to get up and down sooner or later, right?
I mean, they have the horses to do it. Like the girls I just mentioned, I haven't even brought up Madison Ott at Centennial. Last I saw, she was a candidate. I mean, she's not going to be a McDonald's All-American, but she was one of the candidates for it. And Centennial might not even make the playoffs. And and she's a star senior. Layla Patel is a junior on that Centennial team. She's one of the top scorers in the district too. And then Reedy is just really balanced from top to bottom. They have a big game tomorrow night against Centennial to see who gets that 4th playoff spot. But yeah, it's going to be really interesting to see how who will get what superlative. One of those Jazzies or Kyla Deck is going to get Offensive Player of the Year. Then someone they're going to have to distribute it evenly. But it's going to be a mix of those 5, 6 players that I just mentioned.
Let's look at a couple teams that are probably among the more top-heavy in terms of scoring talent in our coverage area, and that have players that will be in the mix for some all-district superlatives, no doubt. Kendrick, over in District 10-5A, how do you parse between Amaria Fields and Chelsea Wooten as far as who is honored for what? Because obviously they're arguably the 2 best players in the entire district, and they should be recognized as such.
If I was going to give it, I'll give Chelsea the MVP. A lot of people, which I don't agree with, because, they're a senior, they deserve it. They may not be the better player. But in this case, if Chelsea don't go, but Kenny North don't go, that's why I give her the MVP. And Maria Fields, she just flats out scored. She's averaged 25 as a sophomore last year, 26, 27 this year.
Yeah.
So she puts up points. So give her Offensive Player of the Year and give Chelsea the MVP. That's how I would go with that. But they're clearly the 2 best players. Like, people running triangles and twos. All these girls. I've seen it happen 3 times with 3 different teams. So that's how much respect they get. They got coaches running triangle and twos to stop them.
That sounds like the Colony.
Yes, it sounds very much like the Colony. So over in District 8-5A with the Colony. Now, to be fair, the Colony is probably not going to be able to work itself into the MVP mix just because they've been playing catch-up to Denton Braswell and Lake Dallas all season. It does look like Braswell is going to end up capturing the district title. Little Elm tripped up Lake Dallas.
Right? Be their first one in school history.
Oh,
Right?
yeah. I mean, this is such a young varsity program. And
Talking about Braswell?
Yeah.
Was it like their 3rd year, 4th year?
Yeah, something to that tune, yeah. And they've been the arrow's pointing up on Braswell for sure right now. But that's another team that, again, there's just so many players that just kind of contribute to what they do. I think all 5 starters have led the team in scoring over the course of district play. How do you really parse through that to determine which player is the most valuable? Whether it is, whether it's their captains, T.R. Starks, Amina Hall, Cameron Gibson. I mean, their leading scorer is actually a sophomore. Lisa Williams, I mean, it's a team that's not going to have a player that just gets you, 20 a night or whatnot. It's, 4 or 5 players that get you, 10 to 15. And just the team defense that they play, it's a team that really, really thrives on just the collective body of work from what everybody puts in. So, again, what does that mean when you're having MVP discussions? Whereas, like last year, when the Colony, ran the table in the district, you knew that it was going to be, either Jewel Spear or Tamia Jones. And both players are probably going to be in the mix once more. You would think that, one of them's probably looking at Offensive Player of the Year. I would think that's a pretty safe accolade there. Perhaps you go a player like Jewel Spear, who's averaging nearly 25 a game and whatnot. I'm curious to see where Lake Dallas factors into the mix, just because, last year they were able to get the newcomer of the year with Mackenzie Buss. She's not even playing this year. She's out with a knee injury, but they've still managed to, finish, most likely second in the district. And they, whether it's, either the Elliott sisters, JoJo or Georgia.
JoJo.
Oh, yeah.
Get that down.
But, yeah, there's a lot of talent there at Lake Dallas. And obviously with the Colony, with 2 players like, Jewel Spear, Tamia Jones, that'll account for about 85 to 90% of their offense on most nights. Again, it's just...
Sound like Amari and Chelsea.
Oh, yeah, it is.
Just like
it really is. We need to get those 2 teams in the playoffs. I don't know where they would have to finish in order for that matchup to happen.
Next year.
But yeah, it's but that's a look at kind of where things are at in 8-5A. Devin, do you have anybody to round us out on this before we head home?
Yeah, I wanted to bring up 11-6A real quick because Horn and Tyler Lee play tomorrow with the district championship on the line. And I think Horn has the MVP on their team in Jasmine Shavers. Mm-hmm. Jasmine Shavers is one of the most dynamic scorers. This is a girl who scores 20 points a night. I saw her on Friday night play when they got a tougher than expected battle against North Mesquite, but Jasmine Shaver scores 15 points in the fourth quarter, 25 in the game, and just she just lights out. She can hit threes. One of those shooters that's fun to watch because you can tell when she's on, you can just see it. From the stands, you're like, okay, she's got the touch right now, and it's just she's fun to watch. I think she'll be the MVP, even if Tyler Lee wins that game, which they beat Horn the first go-around. Mm-hmm. But I think Tyler Lee has 2 really strong players, I think, in terms of district awards, cancel each other out. But I think Jasmine Shavers is the MVP for 11-6A. I think Talia Washington is a superlative award candidate. She's a 6-foot guard that does a lot of different things. Biencia Jackson is another player who's really come on strong and has actually been their second best scorer all season long. So I think Horn is going to be a contender in terms of those district scores in 11-6A. 13-5A is more up for grabs. Lancaster's in first place right now. I think Skylar Barnes, who's another 20-point a game scorer out of Lancaster, is probably going to be the district MVP. But I think Jelia Johns over at Poteet and Shamaria Henry over at West Mesquite are 2 kids to look at that should be considered for something. Okay,
and that is a look at kind of where we are at right now as we creep up on the end of the regular season and some potential district MVPs, some all-district superlative talk. The way it works during the postseason is that once all of the teams from a certain district have been eliminated from the playoffs, that's when the coaches will release that stuff to the public and whatnot, and we will have that published on our website at starlocalmedia.com when the time comes. That'll wrap it up for this episode of the Star Local Media High School Sports Podcast. We'll be back at it on Thursday with another remote episode from Kelly's Craft Tavern out in Frisco. So, if you want to swing by, come say hi to the podcast. That's where we'll be on Thursday. In the meantime, folks, you enjoy your week, and we will talk to y'all later.